Hello and welcome back to Classic Vinyl Podcast. I'm your host, Justin. I'm here with my co-host, Tyler.
Thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, once again, our second episode here, where we're actually going to review The Who. Who's Next, to be exact.
Yeah, this is a good album.
Well, and I'll have to be straightforward. I'm picking albums that I really enjoy so far.
I think everybody enjoys this album.
Well, I hope so, but
if not, you're a communist and
something like that.
Go back to commune area.
I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah, get out of here.
It's a good album.
Yeah, it's a great album.
Let me give you a little background on The Who if you don't know. Roger Daltrey actually formed the band in 1959, and it was called The Detours.
Oh.
But the actual Who formed in 1964, essentially when they changed their name from The Detours to The Who. All of them had... let's go into who was in The Who first. Obviously, Roger Daltrey, the lead singer, and who formed the band to begin with.
He was Tommy.
Yeah. That's later on, but yeah, I'm with you.
that deaf, dumb, blind kid.
Exactly.
Sure plays a mean pinball.
Pete Townshend, the guitarist. John Entwistle, the bass player, and the late, great Keith Moon is the drummer. And I should say the late, great John Entwistle as well, because he's no longer with us. But
oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, Daltrey, Townshend, and Entwistle actually all went to school together.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in London. They met Moon later on in 1964 when he joined the band, and they essentially became The Who.
Yeah.
The Who, they've sold 100 million records worldwide, which really isn't as strong as I feel it should be. They're kind of an underrated band, in my opinion, and I think people that are huge hooligans, as they call them, will also agree. I mean, the commercial success with The Who wasn't as strong as it probably should have been. In fact, I think nowadays they probably have more radio play than they used to. They really didn't have, they didn't have a string of number one hit singles. And, in my opinion, they are a much stronger band album and more importantly, a very, very strong live band. In fact, considered one of the greatest live rock and roll bands of all time.
So, do you think that their popularity, because I would say that they're extremely popular today. People know their songs, even if they don't know that the Who sings these songs or that the Who created these songs. They know these songs.
Well, I mean, it's because let's talk about CSI, right?
Well, yeah, there's a prime example.
Yeah, all three CSIs. What was it? The Vegas, Miami, and was there a New York one? I believe.
Think so. Yeah,
they all had Who songs as their theme songs, and I've heard a lot of Who songs on commercials and things like that, and obviously like Won't Get Fooled Again, Behind Blue Eyes, Pinball Wizard, those songs are still seeing just as much radio play or more than they did in their heyday.
Well, they're relatable songs, but they're great music.
Yeah,
this is so I'm guessing that maybe the Who was a band ahead of their time, and so it took the rest of pop culture longer to warm up to them, or longer for pop culture to understand how good their music was. Yeah,
and it really ranged. When they started in '64 from releasing their first album, people really know them from. They were really introduced to the U.S. during the Monterey Pop Festival. They played Woodstock, and they played the Great Isle of Wight Festival, which all were very strong festivals. And the Who being such a great live band,
some very messy festivals too.
Well, that too, yeah.
which sources one of the songs, but we'll get to that.
Well, exactly, and they're also known for the rock opera, right?
Yeah.
Most importantly, or first, I should say, Tommy, which is an amazing rock opera.
Yeah.
My favorite rock opera, Quadrophenia, and Who's Next, the album we're going to be reviewing tonight, essentially was a rock opera in its beginnings.
Oh,
so
I can see that.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. But once Keith Moon joined the group in '64, they really took off. They picked Kit Lambert and Chris Stamp, a couple of filmmakers actually, to be their managers. The first single they released was "I Can't Explain." It reached number 93 in the U.S. and number 8 in the U.K. And their second single was "My Generation," which reached a little bit better in the U.S. at 74 and reached number 2 in the U.K. Funny enough, "My Generation" is reaching number 2, their top single ever in the UK. They never hit a number 1 in the UK.
That's terrible.
It is.
Because I don't know about all of these, but a good 3 or 4 songs on this album have number 1s written all over it.
Yeah, and not only that, they're still seeing heavy radio play. It shows what time does to things. You know, certain bands that were really popular back in the day, I don't think time treats them as well as certain bands. And some come out looking better after 40, 50 years.
Do you think it's that their later popularity is a result of how excellent driving music these songs are?
Well, I think it's part of it. I think a lot of you get a lot of people that were in punk music that say this was a huge influence to them. You get a lot of people in heavy metal music and hard rock music that said it was a heavy influence, and even their earlier...
There's some heavy songs in here.
Yeah, Who's Next is definitely heavier than what their earlier stuff is. It was a little more poppy and chart-likable, I guess I should say it. But, a quick one while he's away was their first little mini-opera song. They actually played that at the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus, but that wasn't released until the mid-'90s. But The Who famously is known for smashing guitars and breaking their drums and causing, big issues as far as that's concerned. Pete Townshend famously has repaired many of a guitar just to take it back out and smash it again.
Oh.
So, and Keith Moon smashing his drums, and he's also well known for smashing up hotel rooms.
Well, these guys are performers. They get theatrics.
Well, and I'm going to be straightforward. This is without a doubt my favorite. I've said it, but my favorite live band. There's no doubt about it. I love listening to like Live at Leeds, Live at Hull, Live at the Isle of Wight. I love listening to The Who live. I mean, even some of the, Tommy's a perfect example. I like the album, but it just doesn't hit me perfectly for it. But when you hear it live, like they have it live at the Isle of Wight and Live at Hull, it is amazing to hear it live. It just hits so much heavier in the instrumentation in it. And, and they're a very unique group because, first of all, your drummer usually keeps rhythm, which Keith Moon does none of that because he's smashing everything, right?
Yeah.
He is all over the place. And it's really interesting because generally you have a lead guitar type of place, but in all reality, John Entwistle with his bass plays lead bass. And if you really take some time to sit down and listen to them, especially on headphones like we did before this episode, even songs you've heard for years and years like I have and like you have as well on this, in this case, they hit a little different because if you're really seriously listening to the drums or the bass lines or even the guitars, and synthesizers and things, it's amazing. It's like I'm hearing them for the first time every time I listen to them.
This band plays the crap out of their instruments. They everything from the drums to the lead singer.
Well, and
these guys, they play hard.
I really think Keith Moon is probably one of the best drummers of all time. Now, Pete Townshend has famously said he didn't really enjoy playing with him because he couldn't, the drummer's supposed to keep pace.
Yeah.
And Keith Moon was all over the place, so it was really tough to keep up with him. But, at the same time, Entwistle is one of the most innovative, best bass players ever. I think Pete Townshend is an amazing guitar player. Not the best in the world that we've ever seen, but very, very underrated as far as that's concerned.
He's certainly competent. He doesn't necessarily stand out, but he sounds really good playing along with the rest of the band.
Well, and he does stand out much more in the live.
I'm sure he
live.
does.
He's kind of a messy player, but in a perfect way for the Who. And to top it all off with Roger Daltrey, in my opinion, the best rock and roll singer ever.
Sure.
Ever.
I'm okay with that.
I don't care what anybody thinks. I mean, I love Led Zeppelin, but Roger Daltrey kills Robert Plant. He is twice the singer.
Yeah.
And even now, I've seen The Who twice in their reunion formation, obviously without Entwistle and Moon. And because I wasn't old enough to see them in their prime, but
Yeah.
they still, and even Daltrey's voice is still very, very strong. So, going through some of the things, they released Tommy, the rock opera, in May of 1969. Quadrophenia, the second rock opera, was in 1973. Obviously, they have a famous film with Anne Margaret in it, and Roger Daltrey playing Tommy, which was released in 1975, which possibly we'll review that at some point.
Yeah.
Who Are You was released in 1978, which was the last album that Keith Moon actually recorded before his death. And Keith Moon actually died on August 7th of 1978 after he attended a party at Paul McCartney's house, funny enough, celebrating Buddy Holly's birthday.
Oh.
He died the next morning. So,
That's a shame.
Yeah, that was tough, and
Yeah.
Pete replaced him with Kenny Jones, who drummed with him for quite a while. They've had many reunions over the years, which I'm happy for. I mean, it's funny seeing these almost 80-year-old men out there playing, but they still do an excellent job.
Sure. So, Roger formed the band, got everybody together first, right?
Yes.
But you said that Pete hired on a new drummer?
That was after Keith Moon died in 1978.
Yeah. So did Pete kind of become more of like the front man, or?
Well, I think as time went by, obviously Pete, as you can see by Who's Next, Pete was the premier idea behind everything and the songwriter behind everything and the actual creative force, right? And I think maybe not taking the lead man role, but when you are the probably 95 to 98% of the creative force behind the band, you do take on somewhat of a leadership role, right?
Sure, yeah.
And of course, him and Daltrey, there's a lot of famous stories about fights within the band, right?
Yeah.
There's been many of those. And, also John Entwistle passed away at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas in 2002, which, that was a shame because he was an amazing bass player and, that kind of did it. But I think once
if a bass player can be amazing, Entwistle's amazing.
He, if you really sit down and listen to his bass, and I play guitar, but I do respect Entwistle, and I know many bass players do that know any of their shit, right?
Yeah.
Which
I don't.
Well, but you do have two bass guitars.
I do have two bass guitars. I can't play either of them.
Well, Entwistle is an amazing player. He's an amazing musician, to be honest with you. So, that's just a little bit about The Who. I mean, we could get into a lot of detailed things, but that's not what we're here for, right? When we review these albums, we review the music, give a little bit of history behind it, and just kind of go into what it's about and how it makes us feel and what we think about the songs. There's other podcasts out there that dive deep into, this was recorded at 3:30 a.m. on, these specific instruments, and we won't go that detailed, but
no, because I don't know that much information about it, and
that's true.
Yeah.
So going on to Who's Next. So we just got done listening to this album. I've listened to it for years and years. One of my favorite albums. It was The Who's fifth studio album, released August 14th of 1971. Neither of us were around yet.
No, I think my oldest sister was born at that time, but that would be my only sibling that was born around that time.
So the funny thing about this is this was supposed to be kind of another rock opera, or maybe not a rock opera, but a project put together where all the songs were...
told the story.
Told the story, and it was originally called Lifehouse was the project.
Okay.
Many of the songs got scrapped on it, but 8 of the 9 songs on the album are from the Lifehouse project. The only one that isn't is My Wife, which was written by John Entwistle.
Yeah.
So, Lifehouse was about a Townshend written it about a near future society in which music was banned and most of the population lived indoors and they were all government controlled, and he had this thing of how there was a communication via electronically, almost like a premonition to the internet or something.
That explains a lot of the synthesizer throughout it.
Yeah, but the project just didn't really work out that way, and it was kind of scrapped. But
yeah,
I shouldn't say most of the songs, but 8 of the 9 songs on the album were from that.
I'd still like to see that completed. I wonder how well it would hold together.
It has been completed I wouldn't say completed, but the other songs have been released from it. So, and we'll probably review that at one point in time, Sure. Glenn Johns was the recording engineer, and he's famously done recording for the Beatles, Zeppelin, Stones, the Eagles, Bob Dylan, and on and on and on. Wow. Right? I mean, very, very big popular. Names, yeah. In fact, he played a big role in the latest series that just came out on Disney Plus about the Beatles, the Get Back documentary. Glenn Johns was featured heavily in that. So, yeah, and it was recorded at Olympic Studios in London. With the exception of one song, the Won't Get Fooled Again, which was recorded on the Rolling Stones mobile studio, or mobile, as Pete would put it.
Yeah.
So it was recorded on 8-track. The rest of the album was recorded 16-track.
Okay.
So one thing that's interesting about it, and I didn't show you the cover, but I know you've seen it before. It shows all the guys turning around from a slab of concrete.
Taking a leak, right?
Yeah, they had just taken a leak on a big slag heap, right? And apparently that was some kind of reference to 2001: A Space Odyssey and the monolith in that movie. So, but I always enjoyed that as a kid, because this is an album my dad used to make me sit down and listen to with him at late in the night when he'd been drinking many a beer.
That's because he raised you right.
Exactly. And I always got a kick out of that. Yeah, I'm like, God, they just pissed on that.
Yeah.
So a couple other details about the album. It was ranked number 28 on Rolling Stone's top 500 albums of all time. That was on their list that came out in 2003. It's moved back and forth in different places since then because they release it all the time. Over 4 million sales worldwide on this album, which is pretty strong.
Yeah.
Compared to Tommy, is their best-selling album of all time with 20 million, but it has a little bit different notoriety in a different way. I don't think my opinion, the story is good, obviously, on Tommy, but the music isn't as strong. This album reached number 4 in the U.S. and number 1 in the U.K. It was the only number 1 album that The Who ever had in the U.K.
Yeah, it definitely deserves a number 1. This one's a chart topper.
Well, and you've got a lot of albums like this that you listen to, and I'll do a little research and read the history on them and find out that it only reached number 20 or something. And I'm thinking, there's no way, because I just think it's held up so well over the years, and it was so innovative at the time. I haven't listened to it on headphones for a long time until tonight.
Yeah.
And it gets me every time. I love the album. There's very few weak songs on this album.
These guys, specifically Pete Townshend, who does most of the writing on this.
Yeah.
He gets humanity. He gets people. He gets especially teenage angst and feelings and drama.
Well, and you read a lot of the history into it, and some of these things, and we'll kind of go over a little bit of it, is some of the songs, his inspirations were different than what you would gather the inspiration is from hearing the song, right?
Yeah.
But you're right, because it does bring out the teen angst and the, just, I'm a young man making it in the world today, or trying to make it in the world, and fighting the system and stuff like that. But a lot of the songs were more personal about Pete, but isn't that what, to me, that's what great music's about.
Exactly.
If you can make everyone really stop and think and feel what this means to me.
Yeah. And they relate to you.
Yes, whether that's what you meant them to do or not, right? Yeah. But, just amazing songs. The album was inducted to the Grammy Hall of Fame in 2007. So, like I said, my dad introduced me to this album when I was way young. And especially like Behind Blue Eyes and Won't Get Fooled Again, he'd make, here, sit there and listen to this. Listen, this is an awesome song. This is an amazing song. And I remember when I was young at the time thinking, I don't really want to be up this late doing this, but without a doubt, I thank him for that, because I hold this album, it's kind of a silly album for me to review simply because this is one of my top 5 or 6 albums of all time, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Which is why I chose to review it, but I wanted to get your perspective on it as well. So,
right off the bat, I'm probably going to jump to the conclusion that this is one of my top 5 albums of all time.
Wow.
Yeah. Now that I've heard the whole thing.
Well, I'll tell you one thing I like about it is, you had the previous 4 albums from The Who. They were definitely lighter. This is their first true rock and roll album, but what's really interesting about it is the mix of synthesizer in here and piano and things like that really make an interesting album.
And like I said, these guys play the shit out of every instrument in there.
Best band ever.
Yeah.
I'm not, obviously I'm a huge Beatles fan. I'm a huge Doors fan. I would say I do enjoy the Beatles.
But the Beatles don't play their guts out the way that these guys do.
No, these guys, everything is such a crazy mix,
There's a reason that they destroy all their instruments and don't want them to make music ever again.
Well, Pete is so messy with the guitar in a good way.
Yeah.
John Entwistle, to me, is the best musician in the band. I mean, he played horns and piano and all kinds of different shit. But he's an amazing bass player. I mean, I could just sit there and listen to his bass lines all day long. I love them. In fact, a little insight, the couple times I've been to the Who concerts, they stopped for a minute and showed John on the screen playing a bass solo, and it's absolutely mesmerizing. I love it.
Wow.
I wish I could get that somewhere. But let's get into it. So the album opens up on side 1 with what many call Teenage Wasteland.
Right out of the gates with Teenage Wasteland.
Yeah, Baba O'Reilly.
That's the real name of it.
Yes, of course. And, this was another one my dad forced me to listen to, and I wish he would have forced me more.
Oh, for sure.
But the intro to the synthesizer is amazing on this.
Yeah,
and
it's a long intro.
Yeah, it is.
It's at least a full minute.
And it's a pretty heavy song, really. Yeah. You've got Daltrey singing this. Obviously, Townshend wrote it. In fact, just straight up front, we've got our notes on this. What songs Townshend wrote, but let's just be simple. He wrote all of them but one.
Yeah.
So, but Daltrey sings this song with Townshend singing in the middle 8, and it's an amazing song. This is another perfect example of why I think Daltrey is the best rock and roll singer of all time. And I'm sure people will challenge me on that, but in my opinion, he is. He's this band's perfect for all 4 players, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So, Townshend wrote this song kind of referring to the Isle of Wight and the kind of the desolation of the Isle of Wight and Woodstock. A lot of people think he's on the teenager's side and things, but he was actually writing this song to say, you guys are a bunch of idiots, wasteful idiots, that, he's looking at all these people.
Would you clean up after yourselves, kids?
Yeah, basically. And seeing them all just, stoned out of their minds. It's one thing to have fun, but it's another thing to
just be constantly chasing that high.
To be wasted.
Yeah, to be wasted all the time.
And you got to put into context, Pete had kind of gotten himself clean and started attending some spiritual classes from the Meher Baba during this time, and a lot of these songs take inspiration from that.
That's something that I noticed throughout this whole album, is that Pete Townshend has a very strong religious / spiritual side of him that's coming through very heavily.
He did it this time anyways. I mean, obviously he'd get into heroin and different things later and go through his whiskey stage and all that, but it is what it is, So this song, originally, after doing research, was a 30-minute long jam.
And I want to hear that. When I saw that in the notes, I thought, damn, this is what I want. I want 30 minutes of this.
Yeah, and it was cut down to under 5 minutes. But I've actually got that bootleg.
Oh, really?
So we'll have to listen to that one time, yeah. And, funny enough, is this song is one of the ones you hear on the radio still to this day, right? It's all over the place.
Everybody knows this song.
But it was never released as a single in the U.S. or the U.K. It was released worldwide, just not in the U.S. or U.K.
Yeah.
So, kind of interesting, but I think it would have done really well, to be honest with you.
Oh, for sure it would have. Well, but then again, I'm looking backwards at this, because obviously it didn't do so well at the time.
Well, they didn't release it as a single.
Yeah, they didn't release it as a single. But, like, even the album itself, did pretty well. But it just seems like this song specifically, in the last 5 to 10 years, this song is on, like, Stranger Things did it and used it as a thing.
Well, when we were talking about theme songs of CSI, this was actually the theme song of CSI New York.
Yeah.
Which I think was probably the shortest lived CSI, but all three CSIs had Who songs.
Yeah.
Rolling Stone ranks it at 159 of the top or the greatest 500 songs of all time, which is pretty strong.
Which is pretty low, I think, considering what this song is.
It is low. And I don't know what, like I was stating earlier, Rolling Stone releases these lists every year, right?
Yeah.
And so it changes, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think that's the highest they've ever ranked it, and I would definitely rank it higher than that.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this is a song, I've said this in our previous podcast, that there's certain radio play songs I kind of shoot away from just because you hear them so much. And this is kind of one of them for me. As much as I love this song, I do hear it a lot. But listening to it on headphones,
it could get overplayed, right?
Yeah, it does. It does get overplayed for a fan that wants to hear some more of the deeper cuts. But I do, listening to it on the headphones again for the first time in a while was amazing to me. It just so much stronger. So, I mean, this song is strong. It's holding the test of time. It's.
So why is this song named Baba O'Riley?
That I don't know. I don't know if it's a throwaway title.
Was it something to do with... I'm curious if it had something to do with a character in Lifehouse in the project.
So all of these had something to do with Lifehouse.
Yeah.
And I don't know the exact way they're all put down and how they tell the story. And that's something we'll have to do an episode on at one point, is put the whole Lifehouse project together and tell the story. My guess would be Meher Baba that Pete was seeing. It has to do with him somehow. But
but then you have O'Reilly, which is an Irish last name. Very Irish last name.
Maybe it was an auto parts store.
Probably.
Yeah. Okay. So we move on to the second song on this album, which for a long time was one of my favorite songs on this album. Bargain.
Yeah.
Again, written by Pete Townshend, obviously. Sang by Daltrey.
Yep, Daltrey. This song, I've heard this song before. I haven't associated it with the title Bargain. You more associate this one with The Best I Ever Had, because that's kind of the catchphrase of this song.
It's in the chorus, and I absolutely love the guitar in this. I love the acoustic guitar switching over to the electric, so it goes from some really... And there's kind of a theme on this album. You have a lot of songs that start out kind of light and have heavy choruses and heavy middle sections and things like that.
Yeah.
And again, Pete sings the middle eight on this song with Roger. It's an amazing song. When you learn what it's about, it kind of seems like it's about a love of a woman or something, but famously Pete has said it's about his love of God instead of a woman, and it really strong into his teachings of Baba and stuff is where this is coming from, you know. Now, and Pete has famously said this is his favorite song on the album.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's still true today, but he said it on a number of occasions.
That sounds really personal. This one's whereas Baba O'Reilly's they just abuse the crap out of the power chords in that one, and it's a real inspiring tune. This one's just a fun song, just good rock and roll.
Well, other than when Pete's singing the middle eight, he doesn't know his addition.
Yeah.
He says 1 and 1 don't make 2, 1 and 1 makes 1.
Yeah.
And so, something to do with his God he's seeking or whatever.
Yeah,
but,
that's the sort of thing that religious fanatics say. Yeah.
Well, but you can, I mean, all joking aside, you can put that into a love song too, right?
Sure, yeah.
Me
One
and you
one
don't make
one.
2, 1 and 1 make 1. I mean,
Exactly, they twain shall be one flesh. Nying.
well, yeah, you're thinking of it sexually. I'm thinking of
Yeah.
it in a loving manner.
Oh, yeah, that's more mature.
Yeah, you really need to get your mind out
I'm a
of the gutter on
12-year-old
this.
boy. What can I say?
I think, I love this song through and through. If I had one complaint about it, the drums do get a little crazy on it. A little, and I love Keith Moon's drumming, I really do, especially live, but
He's
there's
got
just a
that-
couple sections where they're just a little crazier than they need to be.
Yeah, he's got some interesting golden retriever energy going on. but-
Yeah, he only had one speed. There's no doubt about that. And,
Oh, for sure.
but I can see, Pete saying that he was tough to play with because
Yeah.
you'd have to count on someone else keeping the rhythm and keeping track of the song.
Yeah, because Keith Moon is not there to just tap out a beat. He's playing the drums.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So we move on to track 3, which is "Love Ain't for Keeping."
Yeah, it's for giving away.
It is.
And this one's got like a bluegrass kind of strings to it, the guitars, yeah.
Yeah, it is one of the lighter songs on the album. Another one written by Townsend, sang by Daltrey. I love the acoustic guitar in this one. I think it fits it well. If any of you are interested, there is a harder version of this song on the Who album Odds and Sods, which I wouldn't say I like better. I like it as well. It's just a different version, and it'd be kind of neat if groups did that more often. You see that with like the Beatles when they did Revolution on the White Album, but then and it was pretty slow, but then the single they released was heavy, right?
Yeah.
It'd be kind of neat to see more bands play with songs that give us multiple versions.
Yeah.
Let's hear them. Let's hear the difference.
Yeah, we see that from time to time with covers, but not so much with individual songs with the same band.
Yeah.
Yeah. This song was this was the first one on the album that was new to me, and
What did you think of it? Because I think this song has an amazing acoustic guitar sound to it. The drums are pretty straight in this one. Funny enough, in fact, it wouldn't surprise me if it wasn't Keith Moon playing on this if I didn't know it was. But
yeah, it's a very relaxing song, and it does not use the synthesizer.
Yeah.
So that was a little shocking.
Yeah, because there's a lot of synthesizer on this, but
album,
it's not synthesizer like 80s synthesizer that you would...
No, this is it's different.
It's almost eerie, creepy synthesizer in a good way. I don't know how to explain it.
It's not an organ, it's not a harpsichord, but it's like, I don't know, there's just something old sounding about it.
Yeah, I don't know what kind. I know they use some ARP synthesizer for some of the fuzzy sounds, like on a couple of these songs. But yeah, I really like the synthesizer on this album, but I generally don't like synthesizer, especially in rock music.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it just fits perfect, right?
Yeah.
But Love Ain't for Keeping, an amazing song.
Very relaxing song. I was very pleased with it.
Very good song. Go check out the heavier version on Odds and Sods, because
I need to do that now, because, like, seeing as this was a new song for me, now I want to hear that harder version.
yeah, and they're both equally as good. They're just different.
Yeah.
So now we move on to track 4, which is the only song on the album not written by Pete Townshend, and the only song on the album not sang by either Pete Townshend or Roger Daltrey. It's My Wife, written and sang by the bass player John Entwistle.
Yeah. Very competently done.
Yes.
This was a fun song. It was another new one for me. I haven't heard this one before.
It's kind of a funny song.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, the premise being that, he
gets in trouble with his wife a lot.
Well, yeah, but he ended up in the wrong precinct,
Yeah.
and got in trouble with the law. So, it starts out, my life's in jeopardy.
Yeah.
Murdered in cold blood is what I'm going to be.
Yeah.
So, he's a little afraid of his wife.
Yeah, his wife she does not, she doesn't take it in stride, should we say. She's a little reactionary.
Well, who knows? We don't get her side of the story in this.
Well, I mean, we kind of do, because when you hear about the stuff that he's pulling,
well, yeah, I mean,
it's understandable that she would be wanting to kill him.
Yeah, he's going to buy a fast car, put on his lead boots.
Yeah.
He's getting the hell out of there.
Exactly.
Yeah. He buys a tank and all kinds of shit. He doesn't care how much money.
Airplane. Yep.
Yeah, he doesn't care how much money he's got to spend because he's still going to be alive.
Yeah, and she's going to flip.
She must be pissed.
Yeah.
So this was the B-side of Baba O'Reilly. Now, remember, Baba O'Reilly wasn't released as a single. It was released worldwide, just not in the U.S. or U.K. So everywhere Baba O'Reilly was released as a single, this was the B-side of that.
Okay.
And this is the only song on the album that was not originally part of Pete Townshend's Lifehouse project. Oh. So I don't know how this one slid in. But
this is one that doesn't quite fit in, but I'll tell you, it still does fit in. And the reason it fits in is this album is excellent driving music, and this is a great driving song.
Well, and I can tell you this, it's kind of like Sgt. Pepper's, for years and years people thought it was a concept album and all that, and there's really only 2 songs that have anything to do with each other, and people didn't find that till later. So it's a perfect example of you can listen to an album, which is what I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
I love albums. I'm trying to get my kids into albums. My older one, he kind of got into albums a little more instead of just playlists, right?
Yeah.
Listen to the whole album, how it was meant to be, and you can put your own spin on what these are, what things mean to you, and you can make it fit if you want it to fit, right?
Sure can.
This is a good song because Ant Whistle, he does the singing, he plays the bass, he plays the piano, and he plays the horn section on this song.
That's impressive.
Yeah, I don't think all at the same time. I'm guessing they were overdubbed.
Yeah. I would think they'd have to be. But
it'd be really hard to play a piano, a horn, a bass, and sing at the same time.
John Entwistle, this was his time to shine.
Yes.
And he shined.
And even though they released it as a B-side on Baba O'Reilly, they actually released it again 6 years later as a B-side to Long Live Rock, but it was the live version.
Oh.
And it did fairly well on that one. So Rolling Stone actually ranks this Who song is number 21 of the top 50 Who songs of all time.
Okay.
I don't know if I would rank it that high. I kind of consider it more of just a fun song than...
Yeah, it's not so iconic.
Not to me. Ant Whistle does a good job of singing, but his voice is a little thin. I mean, he's not a lead singer, right?
Yeah, the thing that you'll notice about Roger Daltrey is he's really... For as intense of a singer as he is, because all of these guys are really intense with their instruments, okay? And Daltrey is just as intense with his voice. But he's also very disciplined, very controlled, in that he doesn't ever crack, doesn't ever lose it. He's always got a good sound.
Back then, you mean?
Yeah.
He has, even though he's amazing still... I mean, he's almost 80 years old, right? So,
well, sure.
He is what he is, but...
I'm impressed that he is singing.
I'm impressed and happy that they're still around, and I hope they tour again, because I'm going to them again if they come.
Yes.
So, yeah, My Wife, great song. I would consider it probably one of the weaker songs on the album. And that's not putting it down, because this is, to me, a 10 out of 10 album all the way through. It's just... Ant Whistle, even though it's a good song, he's just not the strongest singer, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that brings us to track 5 to close out side 1, which is The Song Is Over.
Yeah, this one I've heard before. It's a breakup song, and I really like the symbolism of it.
Yeah, I think this is an amazing song as far as a mix between really soft and heavy.
Yeah.
Because it picks up in the choruses and stuff. And, another song written by Townsend, obviously,
Yeah.
sang by Daltrey, and Townsend sings in it as well in the middle
Yeah.
sections. Funny little thing here is Nicky Hopkins played the piano on this song, and he does an amazing job. If you really sit down and listen to the piano on this song, it's amazing. And,
Yeah, it is.
And he famously played with the Kinks, the Rolling Stones, Jeff Beck Group, Steve Miller Band, and many, many others. He's a great session piano player.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know for years that he played on that. You know, but he does an amazing job. So I'd suggest if you strap on your headphones and listen to this and pay attention to the piano playing, because it's
good piano playing.
It's good, yeah. And, you know, a lot of people on a lot of the forums and Rolling Stone things and all the things I've read about this consider this one of the Who's best songs.
Yeah.
In probably their top 5. For me, it's not. It's a strong song. I love the mix of soft and heavy. And I love the piano in this song. I really do, because this is a very heavy song and a very soft song at the same time, which they do on this album. It's a theme throughout.
It's the verses are very melancholy, but the chorus is real passionate, and that's where it gets into the heaviness. Is, you know, this is where it goes into sing my song in the wide open spaces, and it's got this excellent symbolism of, okay, you know, when you're not in love anymore, and you're not, it doesn't feel like a love song being together, then break up, and then take your song, your love, to the wide open spaces, shout it out there,
infinite sea,
to the mountains, to the sea, everywhere,
yeah.
right? And find your biggest fan, because sooner or later you'll find your biggest fan out there. And, you know, just let the music keep going. Let the song keep growing.
Well, that's what's special about this. I haven't done the research on this song to know what Townsend wrote it about. Again, this could be about his search for a God in his life of some kind at the time. Pete went through these stages and, you know, kind of crazy, kind of manic depressive, you know, things like that. Went through his drinking and his drug periods and stuff. And this album symbolizes, like we stated before, his search for his God, you know, and it kind of his, the Beatles had their Maharishi period, you know, this is Pete's Maher Baba period, you know, but either way, it doesn't matter, because you can take out of it what you will, and it only means what it means to you, right?
Exactly.
But a good song. I wouldn't put it in my top 20 Who songs, but it's a perfect fit for this album.
Yeah. It was after listening to this song that I realized I really like The Who.
The Who are an amazing band.
Yeah. And I like them so much I felt the need to underline it after I wrote it down.
Well, then we're going to be doing some more Who reviews, because you know what? That won't upset me.
No, because this one's going on the fridge.
So let me ask you, have you ever listened to Tommy all the way through, or Quadrophenia all the way through?
Tommy. I haven't listened to Quadrophenia.
And Tommy's amazing, like I said, live. I mean, the album's good, but it seems thin when you hear it live, right? It just seems thin.
Yeah.
Quadrophenia, I went to their Quadrophenia tour, which is one of the, you know, they played the whole Quadrophenia album, and then they played a few of their hits, and obviously the big ones, you know.
Yeah.
And Quadrophenia, to me, is their second best album after this.
Okay.
Without a doubt. So that's in my opinion.
Well, that's where I'm going next.
So, but that'll be a 2-episoder, because it's a 2-discer, so, or a long episode, however we want to say.
Yeah.
So now we're going to flip over the old vinyl to
Side
2 and open it up with Getting in Tune.
This was another new one for me. I hadn't heard this before.
Yeah, so another song written by Townsend, sang by Daltrey. One thing that sticks out to me in this song is the bass line. If you really listen to the bass line, this is some of Entwistle's best work, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it's another song following the same theme that starts soft and has heavy choruses and goes back and forth. And Pete has stated that this song was written about his struggles between his spiritual needs you know, how he was going to compensate his spiritual needs compared to his rock star personality, right?
Sure.
And because he was going through all this, you know, if you were listening to it, it could seem like another love song almost, right?
Yeah, it sure does.
And maybe it is. I don't know.
Especially since they say riding on you a lot.
Yeah, that would be a lust song.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, when he's saying it's getting in tune to the straight and narrow, this is
Yeah.
Pete coming out of his drinking period and trying to get on the path to...
A lot of, religious wording in there.
Yeah, and when we say religious with Pete, we're not talking Christianity or...
No, but it's... What is it? It's kind of that spiritualist...
Yeah, you
mentality.
search for your inner God, your inner peace, those kind of things, you know, whatever it means to you. I mean, there's a lot of people that are atheists that still can search for an inner God.
They're looking for they're on a spiritual journey.
Correct.
Yeah, and this is kind of his spiritual path he's following. Yeah.
And, you know, he did fall off the path, but...
Sure, don't we all?
Once again, Nicky Hopkins plays piano in this song, and... I'm going to advise anyone to throw this song on with earphones again, a good set of earphones, and pay really close attention to the piano and the bass line, because this is another very, very, very strong bass line by John Entwistle, and the piano playing is just amazing.
He's a very talented pianist.
Pianist?
Pianist.
Yeah, that's a strange sound, you know.
It's a strange word to say.
Yes, it is.
Why am I saying it like that?
I don't know.
Pianist.
So Rolling Stone,
Stone.
You got me confused with
There
pianist.
I go. Yeah, pianist.
So Rolling Stone ranked this song as number 8 on the greatest 50 Who songs of all time. I don't think I agree.
Tie.
I don't agree with Rolling Stone on most of them. In fact, when you take this album, besides a few songs, it's kind of funny. I don't know if I'd rank a lot of these songs my top 10 Who songs of all time. A few of them.
Sure.
But not all of them. But together as a whole is what makes this album so strong. This song, if you've seen the famous movie with Tom Cruise, Jerry Maguire, they use this song prominently in that movie.
Yeah. This is a good dancing music song.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's hard to say because it goes from slow to fast, so you get a break, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. It's got a really good rhythm to it.
Yeah, I mean, I would rank... This is without a doubt ranked in the top 50 greatest Who songs, but I don't think I would rank it at 8 myself. And after doing research of what Rolling Stone ranks things, I don't know if I'm even going to... Other than just to disagree with them. I can find 10 Who songs I like better than this one, but at the same time, I love this song. It's got a beautiful piano in it. It's got an amazing bass line. So as far as the musical quality of the song, sit down and listen to it on headphones because it's an amazing piece of work.
I can see Pete Townshend's frustration with Keith Moon's inability to keep rhythm or keep a steady beat, because the tempo on the end of so many of these songs, it picks up. I mean, it's kind of like smacking a tether ball as it goes around and around and around the pole, and the shorter the line gets, the faster it goes.
You know, a lot of people consider Keith Moon one of the greatest, if not the greatest drummer of all time.
Sure.
But a lot of musicians
would hate to play with them.
Do say that he would be damn near impossible to play with, because that's how he played sober, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he was crazy, but he was drunk and out of his mind many a time, and a tad bit crazy. I mean, famously, there was a concert where he passed out the drum set, and they had to get a audience member to come up and play drums for him the rest of the show.
Oh, no, it's a little funny.
Yeah, and he did a pretty decent job too. But when you hear him live, the drum fills any other drummer would fill. You know, I don't even know how to put it, but they'd fill it a tiny bit. Let's put it. Keith fills it a lot, plus some, plus more, plus a little more on top of that. And he's going crazy the whole time.
He does not see the drums as being like the military way of keeping beat. No, he sees it as a freaking instrument. And each cymbal has a sound that he's going to popping out whenever he needs it.
There's no doubt about that. So moving on to the second song 7 on the album, but the second song on the second side, I should say.
Yeah.
One of my favorite songs, Going Mobile.
Yeah.
And he says going mobile, or as we here in the U.S. would say, going mobile.
Uh-huh.
But that just doesn't have the same ring, does it?
No, mobile is a mobile home.
I'm going to tell you right off, though, the one thing I do not like about this song is the drumming.
Mm-hmm.
The drums are way crazy, which is Keith Moon.
Yes, they are.
But the one thing I don't like is there's way too much cymbal used in this. If you really sit down and listen to this song, the cymbal crashes. It just keeps crashing, keeps crashing. I have heard a version where that's not in there, and it's a much better version.
Okay.
That being said,
that
being said, though, I love this song. It's written by Pete Townshend again, and this one is sang by Pete Townshend.
Yeah, this song is definitely your motorhomer or your caravanner's theme song.
Well, at the time, Pete had bought himself a mobile home, and this fight fits into the Lifehouse thing too. Is he wanted to be free, right, and avoid things and be able to travel and experience adventure and just always be somewhere else and not have to worry about, like he says, watch the policeman and the taxman miss me. I'm mobile. I love this song. I'll accept the cymbals. They use an ARP synthesizer in this that gives a kind of a fuzzy sound.
Yeah.
And it's more prominent again once listening on headphones or a really good system. Really pay attention to that fuzz sound from the synthesizer because it's amazing in this song. I love it. This song has my favorite line in it. I don't care about pollution. I'm an air-conditioned gypsy. And that's my solution. Watch the policeman and the taxman miss me. I'm mobile.
One thing about this band, they're so intense with their instruments. I have a hard time catching the lyrics.
Yeah, I mean, it is tough, especially, the one disadvantage to listening to this on headphones is the stereo in it. There is some, as amazing as it sounds, there is some annoying panning going on.
Yeah.
Which, if you're listening on a good stereo system, you're not going to hear that panning quite as much. But, on a good set of headphones like you and I both have, sometimes you'll have the guitar on the one ear and the bass on the other. And it's good to hear them separated, but sometimes they'll pan over. And I wish it wasn't as messy.
Yeah, because I can hear, Roger Daltrey belting it out. But even so, I can't understand. I can't make out the words, I can hear him singing, but I can't enunciate it.
Yeah. And that's tough. I think that comes with, like for me, where I've listened to him for years and years and years and followed liner notes and looked up the lyrics and kind of wonder what he's saying there, So, I mean.
Even so, that's a song I'm going to play for my wife the next time we're on a trip.
It's an amazing song. Yeah. I love the song, one of the strongest on the albums. I just wish they would cut the cymbals down a little bit.
Cut the cymbals down.
So, okay, so that brings us to Behind Blue Eyes, which is another song my dad introduced me to multiple times.
Sleep deprivation is a very powerful form of mind control.
I guess so.
Yeah.
So another song written by Townshend, sang by Daltrey, right?
Yep.
This was released as a single in the U.S., funny enough, but not in the U.K. It only reached number 34 in the U.S., which is very strange to me.
That's shocking.
Because I would consider Behind Blue Eyes, and I don't give a shit what Rolling Stone says because I don't have any research on that, but Behind Blue Eyes has to be top 5 Who songs.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Absolutely.
No
one knows what it's like.
They don't.
No.
And I have blue eyes.
Yeah, so do I.
And we're both behind them.
This is a lonely and angry song.
Yeah, but it's pretty too.
Yeah.
And I love how pretty it is, and then it gets angry, when you go into the section when my fist clenches.
Yeah.
I love, and that's, if you listen to that part where he starts singing, "When my fist clenches,
Crack it open.
crack it open," you'll hear Townsend singing mainly, but you can hear Daltrey in the background, and they have an amazing way of. I just love how their voices bounce off each other. Yeah, I love it, and that's something I always forget. And another one of those things until you put on the headphones and really hear it. And this song sounds pretty good on the headphones. There's not a lot of panning going on. It's just a very sweet, soft, heavy. I don't know how to explain it. It's just a beautiful song, you know?
Yeah, it's got a great chorus. This my dreams aren't as empty as my conscience seems to be. Mm-hmm. My love is vengeance that's never free. So like he's always controlled, always on the leash, or that it's going to cost him something every time he gets close to someone.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, you know, is this a love song, or is Behind Blue Eyes about
being someone who's reliable?
Yeah, it's tough to say. I mean, either way, you know, this has been covered by a number of artists. Limp Bizkit, funny enough, covered it, and I'm not a Limp Bizkit fan.
No.
But the way they covered it, I don't know if you've heard it, it's a pretty damn good song.
Yeah, he reached back like a pimp and he slapped the hoe.
Yeah. Well, my wife listened to the Limp Bizkit version a few months ago. She heard it on the radio. I about had to kick her out of the car.
Yeah.
Because she said, I think this version's better than the Who. I know. So after I kicked her out of the car. I
adore your wife. And I can see why that would.
I will say this much: they did pretty decent to it, and it's only Limp Bizkit song worth ever listening to.
Yeah,
it's not a bad version. It really isn't.
Yeah.
Because, and I guess the biggest reason is because they actually sing it and play it, so it's not the Limp Bizkit bullshit.
He did do it all for the nookie.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, but this Behind Blue Eyes. I love playing it on guitar. It's my favorite song on the album.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of.
I'll bet this is a lot of fun to play on the guitar, this one.
It's one of the easier ones, funny enough.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah. Well,
I could see that.
Depends on if you're finger picking or if you're just playing. The chords are really easy, and you can finger pick it, and it's a good song. And it's one of the first two songs I learned how to play on guitar. Yeah. And I haven't played it in a while, so I don't know if I've learned it because I probably don't know how to play it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to try.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing song. Top 5, top 3 Who songs of all time,
Absolutely.
In my opinion.
Yeah, so, this one, I don't know if it's number 1, but it's definitely in the top 5.
Yeah, without a doubt. And going on to the album, or the song that caps off the album, is another song that is in their top 5.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
This would be the climax of the Lifehouse movie that never got made. Yeah.
Well, not movie, but
rock opera.
Yeah, album, rock opera, project, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
Again, Won't Get Fooled Again. Has an amazing synth intro.
Yep.
I mean, it's everybody's heard it, right? Everybody knows that intro.
I get on my knees and pray we don't get fooled again.
I hope we don't.
Tip my hat to a new revolution.
Once again, another song written by Townshend, sang by Daltrey, was originally part of the Lifehouse project. One thing I get out of this song is this is another radio play song that sometimes, I hate to say this, I'm telling you,
it's too much play, right?
Yeah, it's in my top 5 Who songs without a doubt. And I probably change it when it comes on, but listening to it on the headphones again and hearing it when you have a good system and you really sit down and listen to it, it's one of their best songs ever.
I certainly enjoyed listening to this song this time around more than I've ever enjoyed listening to it.
Well, to me, if you listen to the drums and bass specifically in this, they're perfect in this song.
Yes, they are.
This song, Won't Get Fooled Again, to me, is the quintessential rock song of all time.
Okay.
To me, it encapsulates everything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm talking more hard rock, but
This is a hard song.
It is a heavy song. It's if you hear it live, which I've heard them play it live a couple times as they were older, but I've heard it on some of their albums and things, live albums. It's an amazing song. Funny enough, it was released as a single in June of '71. It reached number 10 in the UK and number 15 in the US, which, they cut the song down to under 4 minutes for the single like they did as at those times. You had to have a song under 4 minutes to reach a single. But the fact that it only reached number 10 and number 15
it's a little surprising.
Is really surprising. Because to me, if they re-released this as a single, it hit number 1 easily.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I think, and I'm not sure because I don't do all the stats, but I would think Won't Get Fooled Again and Baba O'Reilly are probably the 2 songs that get the most radio play out of any Who song.
For sure. And then I would say Behind Blue Eyes, number 3.
Yeah, and maybe Who Are You gets quite a bit of play. And there's a couple others, but those definitely get a lot of play. So when they released this as a single, I Don't Even Know Myself was the B-side. And that was another song that was part of the Lifehouse album, but it didn't make the album, but it did make when they released the extended version and the deluxe version. And, they've released this album in a number of different versions, which I own all of.
Yeah. Because
I'm a sucker, completist that way.
Completist, yep. They know their audience.
Yeah. This famously was the theme song for CSI Miami.
Yeah.
So...
It's what a lot of people would know this one from.
Yeah. And obviously the main CSI, the first one, Vegas, I think the theme song was Who Are You?
I think so.
Yeah. Who?
I didn't watch CSI.
I only watched it a little bit, just the original one. So, yeah, they played this song extensively live. And funny enough, fun little factoid is it was the very last song they ever played live with Keith Moon before he passed away.
Oh, really?
And he goes crazy on the drums in this, but it fits it perfect.
Yep.
The bass fits it perfect. The guitar is heavy and fits it perfect. Roger Daltrey's singing in this song is perfect.
That scream.
Yeah, like we've always said, and I'll argue with anybody on this, but it's the greatest scream in rock and roll history.
It's so iconic.
It is.
And this is a prime example of what I'm talking about with Daltrey, is he doesn't lose it. Like, that scream, he's in complete control during that scream. He's not cracking, he's not losing it, but it's just full of emotion and feeling, and it's everything that you want in a singer.
Yeah, Roger, and that's why I think he's the greatest rock and roll singer of all time.
Sure.
Is he just has this way to go from mellow to heavy, but you're right, he doesn't break, he doesn't crack, and he's got enough grit to his voice that it makes it perfect, right?
Yeah.
And you just couldn't have a better singer, in my opinion.
For sure.
Again, Dipshit's Rolling Stone ranked this as number 295 as their top 500 songs of all time. I would say they're probably about 290 off.
Yeah.
I think this song, like I said, it's the quintessential rock song.
Yeah, for sure. And the message of it, that especially when it comes down to the end of it, and the very last line in it, meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
Yeah.
That regimes come and go, and you have so much hope that after the revolution, you get a new regime in there that's finally going to treat you fair, finally going to be on your side, and let's get on our knees and pray we don't get fooled again like we did last time.
Well, and I know they've asked Townsend a number of times what the song was about, and he's been kind of wishy-washy on what it's about. And to be fair, it was 50 years ago. He probably doesn't necessarily remember what it's about.
There was a lot of heroin between here and there, man.
A lot of something, yeah. But, this again might have a lot to do with his spiritual trying, if you want to call it, or his frustration with being a rock star and trying to comprehend that into his own spiritual being of life, but who knows, it doesn't matter. This song is the perfect rock song.
Yes, it is.
And it's heavy, one of the heaviest songs The Who did. And this whole album is definitely the heaviest album The Who the Who have done, and
Yeah.
it's an amazing album. You know, going into reviewing this, I mean, it's not like I have anything bad to say about this album, you know, because it's definitely in my top 5 albums of all time, and it should be in everyone's.
Well, I wish they would have brought brownies for me while I was listening to it, but
Now, why would you want brownies?
for a snack.
Oh, we've got some upstairs.
I know you do.
Okay, fair enough. So that's
all I wanted from the Who. This one was more brownies.
So that's the Who album,
Yeah.
the Who's 5th studio album, their best album. Not their best-selling album of all time, but their best,
Yeah.
without a doubt. And, you know, we're definitely going to get into more Who albums. We're definitely getting into the Beatles, the Doors, Cream, Pink Floyd, Black Sabbath. We're going to go into all kinds of artists. But if you want to hear us review an album, send us an email at classicvinylpodcast@gmail.com. You know, check us out on Instagram at Classic Vinyl Pod. And, you know, you can listen to us on any of your podcasting platforms, you know, Spotify, Apple. What other ones are there?
Oh, let's see. They've got Google Podcasts.
There you go.
Let's see. We did Spotify, Stitcher.
We're on the Podbean app, so
Podbean, yep.
reach out to us and,
Give us a 5-star review. Share us with your friends.
yeah, let us know what you want to hear us talk about, what albums you want us to review or listen to,
And I am going to be buying this album.
I could record it for you.
Well, I'm still going to buy it.
Okay, you better buy it.
Yeah.
Okay, so until next time, thanks for listening.
Thank you so much for listening to Classic Vinyl Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Classic Vinyl Podcast for updates, and also share us with your music-loving friends.
Thank you.